What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Corey Austin MMA Theorem. So as you can see, a little bit of a different background today. I'm actually at the beach. My wife had a little work trip that she had to go to. So we brought my son and myself down with her. We're going to go to the beach this afternoon, spend another night, have a good time, all that good stuff. But while she's in her little training thingy today, I thought, you know what? This would be a good time to get a video in. And what I wanted to talk about was Alex Pereira being in the corner of Sean Strickland for this DDP fight and how that may benefit him. And what made me think of it is I saw an article where it was quoting, Brendan Schaub. If you're an old head like me, you know who Brendan Schaub is. I've been watching the UFC since its inception. So Brendan Schaub was just someone that came through about, 10, 15 years into the UFC. He was a UFC heavyweight, obviously, and now he's a pretty big name in the kind of MMA talking space. He's got a Thick Boy podcast and all that stuff, which I don't really listen to, but point being, obviously this guy's a former UFC fighter. He's pretty knowledgeable about MMA as the sport of fighting, but also MMA, the MMA business space. So I respect what he says, but sometimes he says some things where I'm like, why the hell and what the hell are you thinking when you say that? And he made the comment that he didn't think Alex Pereira being in the corner of Sean Strickland for this DDP fight was any benefit to Sean Strickland whatsoever. And his reasons for saying that were, one, Alex Pereira doesn't speak English. We know that. He speaks Portuguese. Now, the word on the street is he speaks more English than we know about, okay? A lot of these guys, when English is their second language, they don't feel comfortable speaking it in front of the cameras where there's millions of people watching because they might get caught up on a word or two or hear, you can imagine. I don't speak Spanish. I understand a little bit of Spanish, but I would feel some sort of way about trying to communicate in Spanish, knowing that millions of people around the world were watching me, because all the Spanish-speaking natives around the world would be going, did you hear the way he said that? That's not the correct use of that word, except they would be saying it in Spanish, right? Anyway, point being, he supposedly speaks a little more English than people give him credit for, but that was one of the things that Brendan Schaub said, okay? The second thing that he said was that there's no worse person to mimic Dricus du Plessis than Alex Pereira because, they're two different styles of fighters. We all know that Dricus fights like the retard on the short bus, right? And he is a very unconventional fighter, at times very wild swinging shots, wild kicks, very unconventional, in that sense. Although it's been quite effective for him, obviously. Here he is now the middleweight champion and defending his belt now for a second time. Alex Pereira is the opposite of that. Everything very technical, very by the book, very tight, very sharp, very fundamentally sound, coming from that kickboxing background. So Brendan Schaub's argument is, well, how can a guy who's really, really technical like that help you or help mimic a guy who is just all over the place and is like the Tasmanian devil out there fighting? And I took issue with that, both of those statements, because for one thing, whether he speaks English or not, right, the sport of MMA is the sport of MMA, right? And whether you call it this or you call it that, there are certain things undoubtedly that Alex Pereira has been able to acquire as far as his language goes, describing aspects of MMA. And once you spend quite a lot of time with another fighter training with them, I'm sure Sean Strickland understands what Alex Pereira means when he says or motions towards certain things, right? These guys have trained together. So there's a deeper understanding of two training partners, even if they do speak separate languages, okay? And also, too, Eric Nixick, when he was asked about this comment from Brendan Schaub, he made the comment that, well, Alex Pereira was with us in the corner of Sean Strickland the first DDP fight, and he was sitting behind me the whole time, saying all kinds of stuff in English. Tell him to pump the jab more. Let's see the teep more. He was speaking to him in English. So Alex Pereira absolutely does know some things in English. Now, from a technical perspective, his argument, Brendan's, was, well, Alex Pereira can't help because he can't mimic Dricus du Plessis, because Dricus du Plessis fights like the Tasmanian Devil. Alex Pereira does not. Yeah, but Alex Pereira is a perfect person for finding openings and weaknesses, and that wild nature in which Dricus fights. The style of Alex Pereira is a perfect style to find holes and openings that Dricus may leave at certain points throughout his fights, throughout his movements in his fights. There's no one better than Alex Pereira at that. That's what he does. That's one of the things that makes his style so superior to other people, is he's so good at finding those little bitty openings, even if they only last for a split second, and that opening is there, he takes advantage of it. We saw what he did to Sean Strickland himself when he and Sean Strickland fought. As great defensively as Sean Strickland is, all it took was 1 second of him doing this, thing with his hands. Alex Pereira pumped the jab a couple of times, being the longer, taller fighter, and kind of lured him to sleep, doing his usual, let me try to control this guy's hands so I can get in there and get a punch in. And so 2 or 3 times after doing that, he turned the jab into a left hook. That's how he caught Sean. That's how he hurt Sean. That's how he put him down. And I'm here to say that if Alex Pereira can find a significant weakness that quickly in the game of Sean Strickland, which is pretty technical, pretty tight, pretty defensively responsible and defensively sound, I have no doubt that helping Sean Strickland train for someone like DDP, watching DDP, studying DDP's tape, studying his fights, his movements, all those things, that Alex Pereira could have plenty of value to add to how we can find holes in this man's wild, eccentric style. Okay? So I thought that was just an idiotic thing for Brendan Schaub to say. It's like, bro, Alex Pereira doesn't have to fight exactly like Dricus du Plessis to be able to add value to this situation, or to be able to watch Dricus du Plessis fight and look and see holes and openings in his movements and in the way he fights, right? And then he can certainly pass that information on to Eric Nixick and Sean Strickland. It's not like there's not translators hanging around. It's not like Portuguese and English-speaking people who are training together in the United States are worlds apart. There's Brazilian fighters and Portuguese fighters everywhere. I thought that was an ignorant thing, because I thought, who better than Alex Pereira, to find weaknesses and holes in someone's game, right? And he was looking at it from a perspective of, well, he can't mimic Dricus du Plessis because du Plessis fights like a wild man and Alex Pereira doesn't. What he's have to mimic him. There's the training aspect and the sparring aspect of it, but then in addition to that, there's the coach and mentoring aspect of it. And let's not forget, Alex Pereira slept Sean Strickland. Okay? I know MMA math doesn't work, but then Sean Strickland and Dricus du Plessis fought a fight like this together, a very close fight together. You have to assume that Alex Pereira could potentially, being a very technical and savvy striker, could potentially find a way to KO Dricus du Plessis. Okay? And then he's passing that information on to Sean Strickland, who is facing DDP. Okay? So I just thought that was a idiotic thing for Brendan Schaub to say. I mean, he just sometimes just, I'm not thinking about what I'm saying, I'm just talking and blah 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 blah. I think it adds way more than just glitz and glamour for Alex Pereira to be in the corner of Sean Strickland. And undoubtedly throughout this training camp they have worked on plenty of things that are probably the brainchild of Alex Pereira, of Poaton, finding openings and finding frailties in the style and finding weaknesses and split-second lapses in defense for DDP where Sean Strickland could potentially capitalize. Okay? So, listen, I'm an American, Sean Strickland's American, I'm pulling for the American. I love Dricus du Plessis. The South African, I think, is an awesome fighter, and he seems like an awesome person as well. So I don't really want to see either one of them lose, but I'm American. I'm pulling for the home team. You know, it's just something I do. And as far as my pick, I actually picked Dricus to win this fight and to win it a little more dominantly this time. But that doesn't mean that I'm not holding out hope that we can get the middleweight belt back in America. Of course I'm hoping that, you know. So am I hoping that Alex Pereira's involvement in the corner of Sean Strickland is going to add value to Strickland's fighting DDP? Of course I'm hoping that, and I believe it's true. And I believe that Brendan Schaub was looking at things that seem to be potential barriers and obstacles to Pereira helping Strickland, when if you flip that coin over and you look at it from a different angle, you can actually look and see that those are actually benefits. Again, he doesn't have to be able to duplicate DDP. He has to be able to watch and study DDP, find the openings in the striking game, because Sean Strickland's not going to be grappling DDP. Okay? His game plan is to strike with him. They feel like that's his best chance of winning that fight. So undoubtedly that's what he's planning to do, and undoubtedly that's why they felt Alex Pereira would add value to the situation. He's an amazing striker, and as long as he can find those holes in DDP's game and then figure out a way to relay that to Sean Strickland and how he can capitalize on those weaknesses, momentary split-second lapses in defense, that's going to add value to Sean's corner, right? So anyway, that's my thoughts on it. What do you guys think? Do you think Alex Pereira being in Sean Strickland's corner and having trained with Sean Strickland for this, do you think that's going to be a big benefit for him? Or do you think it's more just the glitz and glamour of, oh, look at me, I've got Alex Pereira in my corner, woohoo? What do you think? If you would, please do subscribe to the channel, like the video, comment down below, let me know what you think, and I hope you guys enjoy the fights. I will talk to you on my reaction video. Alright, thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next time.